EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, John McMullen, wrapping up another week here on the show as we inch closer to the 2025 NFL season, the 2025 banner drop season opener versus the Dallas Cowboys. Johnny Mack, how you doing on this Football Friday morning, brother, as we head into Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, give people a break, and hopefully they take a little time to, say thank you. But yeah, a lot of people get excited about having a couple days off. So, and a little bit of respite, but the Eagles will be back on the field. First on-field OTA will be Tuesday of next week, so right after Memorial Day. So things ramping up from the spring perspective on the field, which will be good because all we've been talking about is nonsense off the field, so we can start talking about how things are shaping up for this team.
Yep, no doubt about it. So they'll hit the field next week. Johnny Mack, you said you'll be down there Wednesday, right? So the second day of their OTA?
Tentatively, that's the plan, subject to change, not official, but I expect to be down there Wednesday, not the first day, but the second day. They only have to open one. The cluster of OTAs, you have 3 in a cluster, and then you can have 4 on the last one. But the Eagles aren't even doing that. You have a 10 total allotment of OTAs. The Eagles are using 6. They have to open one of the cluster of 3. So there'll be one next week and one the week after that. And then they have mandatory minicamp for one day, and that'll be it until training camp.
There you go. So we'll have a little bit of on-field stuff next week that we'll be able to review, maybe talk about. I'm not sure if you'll see much there. Might be another repeat of rookie minicamp, maybe not. John, how many?
A little bit more. We usually get to watch OTAs, but it's usually like a 50-minute practice. They make it as short as possible. But
I wonder how many years away we are from that one day not even being there anymore for you guys. I mean,
it's coming.
I know.
But I think what's coming when they go to 18 games, and ultimately they're going to go to 18 games, they're not going to have these OTAs and they're just going to open up training camp a little bit earlier. I think that's the plan, and everybody's on board with it pretty much. So when that comes, I think that's going to be the setup. So you're going to have no spring work, and you're going to open up training camp a little bit earlier. That seems to be the way things are trending.
Yeah, I do find it a little funny when we talk about that, how so much. Now I'm a fan, and I'm not sitting here, professing from the high horse that I care about this. They're all grown men and they all make their own decisions. But I love how the league uses so many things under the guise of safety. And then they just want to add more games, like they're really,
frauds.
Yeah,
I mean, they're frauds from
they're
that.
Frauds.
I hate the safety discussion. A lot of people brought it up with the Tush Push because they use that as, and they act like, oh, Eureka, they're being hypocritical. Yeah, we all know they're hypocritical.
Right.
Fans are hypocritical about safety. They don't care. And basically, when the NFL or fans talk about safety, they're talking about concussions because they've been taught to care about concussions. Nobody cares about torn patellar tendons or torn labrums or torn ACLs other than if it affects their team and they lose a good player. Nobody cares about the guy limping. We'll talk to Cobb later today. I mean,
yeah, it's true, man.
Cobb played when the game was much more brutal and violence. And, there's a lot of guys that pay the price later in life. And I'm not talking about just cognitive. I'm talking about knee replacements, whatever. And they're limping around because this is a dangerous game to play. Yeah. Nobody cares about that.
No, right. I mean, they're well compensated, and they're all grown men making the decision. I just hate how they use that guise for stuff.
Well, I'm with you, and that's where I am. I'm like, well, they're adults. They know the dangers of the game, and they make that cost benefit analysis, which I believe in. and I lean on that.
Yeah,
But I'm
I agree.
consistent about it. I don't, say, oh, what craziness that somebody's limping later in life. I mean, that's the give and take.
Yeah. Dad says 20 plus games, way too much on the human body. I agree with that. What do you think the solution is to that? Do you think they add more roster spots? Do you think they, I know you mentioned maybe get rid of the OTAs, but let's be real, that's not doing too much for players who are playing 20 straight games in the NFL. What will that look like? Like, what other changes will they need to accompany that?
That's it. I mean, they'll go back to 2 preseason games. And they'll scale that. So, and technically you'll be playing the same amount of games, but already, key players don't play in the preseason for the most part, or very little. Certain cities and coaches still do it, but very little. And as Nick says, you manage it during the week. To me, it'll become more NBA-ish, which it already has. And by that, I mean, don't practice a lot, especially late in the season. Becomes more walkthroughs and schoolwork, so to speak, meetings and that kind of thing. So not the old school, oh, we're not playing well, so we're gonna put the pads on and hit late in the season. Nobody does that. In fact, they do the opposite. They scale back to keep guys as fresh as possible. So that's already here. The only difference is they're going to 18 games, and to get to 18 games, they probably have to give up 1 preseason game, and nobody cares about that. And they're probably going to have to give up on-field OTAs and mini camp. And some people care about that, but I ultimately I don't think it matters much. I was looking back last year at the OTAs to see some of the, Ed, my buddy Ed Cratch does. And the title of the piece is Overreactions. He's overreacting. He's telling, but you know how people take things.
Right.
One of the things is, and I was reading it, and yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts was not sharp early on in the spring last season. If you remember, there was a lot of talk about another new offense, new terminology called 95% different. He called it at one point.
Yeah, he balked from putting a number on it this year.
Yeah. And there was a lot of uncertainty, and they were trying a lot of different things, and there was a lot of checkdowns and a lot of motion and trying to involve these things. That's another good reason we can ask G about, practice, evaluating practice. Like, people need to be taught to evaluate practice correctly. Because you're generally trying to get better, and often how do you get better? Well, you try things you're not good at.
Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes it can look ugly. And then when you get into the preparation standpoint, you scale everything back to what you do well and try to maximize that against your opponent. So, I would say Jim Schwartz is the one who told me that. Off season's about teaching. Training camp's about evaluation. There's some carryover, a little bit of teaching still at the start of training camp. And then you get into preparation, which is about week to week 1 opponent, week 2 opponent, compartmentalize. Like, nobody's looking ahead to week 6. And that's sort of how the NFL is set up these days.
Yep, no doubt about it. Well, good stuff there. As John mentioned, we'll have Gary Cobb on later in the show today about 9:20. All right, so we'll talk to G Cobb later as we head into Memorial Day weekend. An update for everybody who didn't hear the update yesterday. There will be no shows on Monday. Obviously, it's Memorial Day. All right, so we will take the day off. Obviously, a day of memory for all those who have given their lives, given the ultimate sacrifice for our country, for our great nation. So we will do that. We'll be off on Monday, then we'll return on Tuesday. All right, and we have the Eagles are, as John mentioned, on for OTAs. So we'll have plenty of good stuff to talk about next week on the show. John, you mentioned the offense there with Jalen Hurts and some of that stuff coming in. I'm curious to see, what this offense looks like this year, how much they try and change it, or don't change it at all. You know, Saquon obviously had a lot of carries last year. I don't know if they're going to stick to that this year, or you know, maybe try and hold them up a little bit, because they do have him under contract now for another couple of years. Is 400 plus carries 2 years in a row too many? And then you have the right guard discussion too. And the reason I bring that up is, you know, how much does the right guard factor into what they're trying to do with the offense as a whole, where Mekhi Becton was, you know, tremendous in the running game, the way he bulldozed people out of there. And many times you saw Saquon, boom, running right up behind Mekhi Becton to get a big run. You think that has anything to do with what they're thinking for the offense in terms of who they try and get to be the starter there at right guard?
Yeah, I mean, typically they like bigger bodies there. You know, if you go back to Brandon Brooks, and who was a tremendous player, really big guy, 6'5", 340-ish when he played. And obviously last year with Mekhi, we were all like, really? You're going to put Mekhi at right guard? You know, how do you see over him as a quarterback? And it worked out beautifully. So they typically like that big power aspect of it. And certainly after what happened last year, you would think they'd want to go to you know, it's very difficult to find somebody as physically imposing as Mekhi Becton, but they want to go a little bit bigger there. And in the past, that a lot of that had to do with Jason Kelce, who was undersized for a center. So is Cam Jurgens, not to the degree Jason is, though. So maybe it's not quite as important. But I think ultimately it comes down to, you know, the best player. And Tyler Steen will get the first opportunity like he did last year. Doesn't mean he's going to win the job. He didn't win it last year. I think Kenyon Green will get a long look. And then you have a cast of thousands, basically, from Trevor Keegan. And you start thinking about, all right, will they move, you know, Miles Hinton inside? Will they move Cameron Williams inside? And people say, no, they're tackles. Well, so was Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, right.
You know, Jeff Stoutland's willing to do it if that's the right way to go. Now, I'm not expecting a day 3 guy to start on the offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles unless something goes wrong. And hey, you know, throw Drew Kendall in that.
Yes, I was about to say next. Yeah, Drew Kendall. I know he was a center, but he played some guard too, no?
He didn't I mean, he has, but you know, he was
didn't
so
at college, right? But
he was so good at Boston College as a center. He basically played every game, every snap at center. But, you know, his dad was a guard predominantly. He's been taught to play guard and center because, you know, as an interior guy, you have to play all 3 positions, especially when you start as a backup. So he'll be fine. He's not the biggest guy either, though. So, you know, they clearly found something with the physicality, so I think they want to replicate that. I mean, the home run would be to tap into what Kenyon Green's physical traits are that made him the whatever he was, the 15th overall pick in the draft. That would be the home run to me. But he was so bad in Houston, it's hard to visualize that. And then if that doesn't work out, it's sort of like who plays the best over the summer. And it should be a legitimate competition. You know, people, I guarantee we're not going to get into the locker room until week 1, you know, right before week 1. There'll probably be video though coming out, and maybe somebody will even ask it because the Eagles generally, the back right of the Eagles locker room, they do it in order. It's left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle on the 5 lockers on the bottom right.
Right.
And it's, you know, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, who replaced Jason Kelce. That was his locker for many years. And then Tyler Steen had that locker to start last year. And everybody's like, well, Tyler's the right guard. And it's like, no, they can move guys pretty easily. And Mekhi ended up taking that spot, and obviously Lane's on the end. So, you know, I'm sure Tyler will start in that position again, and it's up to him to win the job. And we'll see how it works out. But there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of bodies to the point you say, well, they're going to find somebody who can play between Cam Jurgens and Lane Johnson, because that helps as well. You got a Pro Bowl guy on one side, you got an All-Pro Hall of Famer on the other side. That helps as well when you get to play in between those guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm interested to see who wins that job. I'm kind of with you where I question Tyler Steen a little bit. I think they're going to go with end up going with a bigger bodied guy, but there's just so many to pick from, John. It's hard to pin down who it might be. That's why I'm curious to see if you get any look next week, maybe, or maybe if not next week, once they get the mini camp and to training camp, obviously we'll learn a lot more. But it's going to be interesting to follow that matchup. It's the only spot on offense that will have change. Yep, coming in.
Well, I'll say this: if you want a bigger body, the only way you can get a bigger body than Tyler Steen with the contenders in play is to play one of the rookies, to move Miles Hinton inside, to move Cameron Williams inside. Holland Pierce, a lot of people are excited about him. The Rutgers undrafted free agent. Those are the only guys that are bigger than Tyler Steen. So it's going to be tough to replicate what you had with Mekhi Becton.
Yeah.
But, they've done it in the past. People forget. It's crazy because Jeff Stoutland's up for the PFWA Dr. Z Award, which is basically lifetime achievement for assistant coach in the NFL. He was up for it last year, didn't get it. He's up for it again this year. But I'm reading the release they sent out, and, he's coached Pro Bowl players for 12 consecutive years, at least one Pro Bowl player for 12 consecutive years. Nobody's done that in the Super Bowl era. All pros, future Hall of Famers. People forget they were pretty damn good when Isaac Seumalo was playing left guard and then moved over to right guard because Landon Dickerson took over at left guard. And Isaac was more of the, he's a big guy, but not super big. And I would say over the past, since Brandon Brooks, the best right guard they've had is probably Isaac. So you can do it different ways.
Yeah, Mekhi Becton was pretty damn good last year too, but you're right. Isaac was a great player. He's now in Pittsburgh, still playing there. John, what do you think of Kevin Patullo coming in here? Do you think there's going to be a stall? Do you think it's going to be more simple for him? Because I think the offense is more established now around the quarterback and the offensive line than maybe in years past where we wondered if it was going to be a new play caller and a new scheme and all these different things. Like, I think the scheme is going to be the scheme. What are your expectations with Kevin Patullo coming in his first year as offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I think if you look at the offense, you've already seen so many different changes and basically thematically it ends up being very similar because you're building around the strengths of the team, which is basically number one, the offensive line. So you've always had a good running game. It's just went to historic levels last year with Saquon Barkley. You have a unique quarterback that you want to take advantage of with both the running game and the passing game. So I think it looks very similar, whether it was Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore. It ended up very similar. And he constantly tried to evolve it and constantly try to add things to it. But it's going to look very similar. I mean, Kevin's been here that entire time. The entire time. He came in with Nick. He's Nick's right-hand man. So this guy's been around Jalen Hurts for a long time. That's why I sensed a much more inner calmness about this change with Jalen than I did last year when he was talking about 95% different terminology.
Yeah, well, I do think Jalen learned from that. Like, I think he kind of tried. I don't know. Maybe it's just my read. But when I listened to Jalen, I thought he was kind of made a conscious effort to not stir that pot a little bit. At least that's how I heard it.
Well, I think the number wise, because 95 was silly to begin with, but number wise, he made a conscious effort. But I'm just talking, just the way he felt. And he was I think he's much more calm about this change because he knows Kevin and he's known Kevin for years. Versus somebody coming from completely outside the organization, which was going on last year. And was completely new to the organization. So I think sometimes comfort can be a good thing and sometimes comfort could be a bad thing. So I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be a good thing, but I think he's much more comfortable because he's worked with this guy for a long time.
Yeah, no, I get that sense too. What are the expectations for the offense this year? What were they ranked, John, last year with collectively? It was number 8, was it? Number 8 overall?
Number 8, yeah. 8 2 years in a row. But last year they were second in rushing,
right?
Because Baltimore also had a historic season, and bottom 5 in passing. I don't know. I don't have the exact. It was 27 or 28. So it's different. Wasn't as balanced last year, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And part of it is just simple. When you're that good running it, I mean, it's going to take away from the passing game. But I do think there's going to be an emphasis, and you're going to see it starting next week, about similar to last year, where everybody was concerned about the staleness of the offense and up to Jeffrey Lurie, and that was why Kellen Moore was brought in. And you can't be bottom 5 in motion, you can't do this. And they tried all these things in the off season, and they tried to get better, and they tried to get better. There was a little bit more, but ultimately they scaled back to very similar offense because they're taking advantage of the players they have. And the same thing will happen this year. They'll try to evolve. And you see where it goes. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I think is where the Eagles are going to be. And until somebody proves that they can stop this running game, they're going to. And that, Kansas City, that was their goal in the Super Bowl, and they did it. And the Eagles were able to pivot. So they can pivot, and they have enough talent to do either. So that's the positive part of it. But they want to be more consistent throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about accentuating the players you have on the roster, and I understand that Saquon Barkley and that offensive line is unbelievable, but we still do have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Like, I feel like you got to get those guys involved a little bit more this year in this offense. But hey, listen, if they're running like the same way they are, Dabney brings up they were 31st in pass attempts last year, which I don't know if he's correct on that. I'd have to double check, but
they didn't pass it a lot at all. So I mean
Hurts had 20 to 23 attempts a game around after that bye week. So
I mean, they had an historic rushing season. So part of that is just and again, they were successful in winning games. So, again, one of the things I hate, and I know I have to answer it, and I'm going to answer it 18 times this year, and while the Eagles hope 21 times, but what's the run pass ratio going to be? What's depends on the game. If it's a tougher season and they're in a lot of close games, or they're losing in the fourth quarter, they're going to have to throw it more. I mean, that is wholly dependent on the circumstance of individual games. And when you're winning, like every year, somebody thinks they've solved the problem. Well, the top 8 teams, they're all heavy run teams. Well, the top 8 teams are generally good. They're always heavy run
they're winning
teams.
games.
They're winning.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's that's when I chuckle at, because coaches chuckle at it. It's like, it's pretty obvious why that happens the way it happens. Whereas if you're losing by 2 touchdowns and you're a bad team or you're a mediocre team, you tend to have a high volume of passing because you're trying to come back. You're trying to win games. And if you're down 14 points with 6 minutes left, you're not going to stay patient when you get the football. You're going to try to go down the field quickly, and you do that by throwing the football. It's not hard to figure that out.
Yeah.
So, but evidently
they did create a new path though last year, John, even amongst the modern NFL, man. Like it worked so good last year. It's hard to even it's hard to even nitpick on any of it. And then you wonder, boy, if they can just take that same formula, why change it? I guess it's more of a personal thing with me where I'm like, I want AJ Brown to get the ball more. I think that guy could be the best receiver in football.
I think everybody does. But and the Tush Push is a good example of this. And I give my buddy Zach Berman credit because he wrote about it. But and thankfully I'm glad because I felt like I'm on an island. And Zach, said the interest has outgrown its importance, which I agree with. And the push, and Zach explained it better than me, so I give him credit. The push might be the most inconsequential part of the play, which is more about Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton last year inside, and the quarterback, Jalen Hurts. How many times do you watch a push play and he's got it anyway before Dallas Goedert comes in or Saquon comes in? How many times? It's about the quarterback and the offensive line. And that's where, and the same thing, it expands to the running game. Yeah, the Eagles showed everybody a path to win, but that path is, well, you have the greatest rushing season in NFL history because you have a running back who's capable of doing that behind an offensive line that's capable of blocking for somebody to give them the opportunity to do that. I mean, that's easier said than done. And oh, by the way, you probably are going to need the number 1 defense. So when we talk about small paths, yeah, they got a path. That's a small path. But they have built up the talent on this team. And that's why it's crazy to me that people act like that's a big part of the talent of this team is outrageous, especially in the modern era. You watched, as Eagles fans, you watched one of the greatest teams of all time in hindsight.
Did you hear Saquon called it a top? He thinks it's a top 5 team of all time. Maybe a little biased there, but I don't think he's far off.
Well, certainly I kind of shifted to the modern era versus because it's hard. It's basically hard, it's basically a different game. In the modern era, it's unquestionably a top 5 team, and he might be low. So I'm taking the 70s and 60s. They're completely different games.
Yeah, like Daz. Yeah, I don't have this type of knowledge. Daz says 72 Dolphins, 85 Bears.
See, I'm not even. We're getting the Dolphins. So, I mean, the Dolphins because they're undefeated. They're still the only undefeated team.
Right. 2000 Ravens and 84 Niners. So only 2 of those teams are post 2000, and one of them is 2000.
Yeah, and even 2000. I mean, is a different game. So it's constantly shifting, but. And certainly the performance in the Super Bowl was, top 5 ever. Yeah, I mean, so it's easy to say just copy the Eagles, but the people are copying the wrong thing because you can't wake up and say, all right, everybody says with the Tush Push, well, you can do it too. Well, yeah, but that took them years to get in a position by drafting offensive linemen, cultivating offensive linemen, drafting how many quarterbacks squat 600 pounds? it's not like you can just wake up and say, all right, I'm gonna go get the most physical left guard in football, and I'm gonna get that quarterback who, can squat 600. It doesn't work that way. That's why I say teams should copy what the Eagles do, but philosophy wise, it just keep drafting offensive linemen. And by the way, get an offensive lineman developer.
Might be harder said than done, or easier said than done, especially the developer part of it. But I do you're due right to a point. Like, Eagles have one spot on the offensive line, one spot open. They got like 10 dudes right now fighting for that spot.
Well, and I'm going to vote for Jeff, and I voted for him last year, and I think he should get that award. I was talking about the Lifetime Achievement Award for assistant coaches.
Yeah, right.
But even as good as Jeff Stoutland is, even as good as Vic Fangio is, and there's a lot of good assistants in Philadelphia. I think Jamal Singleton is great at running back, but there's a lot of good assistants. It's easier to find coaches than players. It's still talent first.
What makes Jeff Stoutland so special, and from what you've seen?
Well, I think one, he's, that's the thing. Fred Johnson talked about this last year, and he was really, it was really interesting to hear, because when he came here, when he got here, he was really depressed and really in a dark place. And he admitted this, which is rare. And he was like, Stoutland would be on him in practice. And, anybody who knows Stoutland at all, he's, at practice, he's going to get on you, no matter if you're Lane Johnson down to, the undrafted free agent, Holland Pierce. He's going to get on you. He's going to give you all the same amount of teaching, the same amount of time. And Fred got here and he said, man, just leave me alone. I'm like third string. Just leave me. I'm holding the bag. And he's like, and he wouldn't give up on him. And he's trying to say, you got a lot of talent, and he's very, uplifting to them. And he buys into them as people and all that kind of stuff. And I do think the modern era is a little bit different. Like, I don't think you could be a good coach in the modern era like Bill Parcells. And by that, I mean the old school hard nose. All right, I'm going to embarrass this guy in front of the rest of I don't think that works now.
Yeah, right.
Different generation, different ways to get at him. So I think you have to be relentlessly positive, relentlessly optimistic. And then, his technique and his ability to teach angles and is top tier. So it's a bunch of different things, but I think it comes down to, as cliche as it is, because Nick always says it, connecting with people. And you only, the goal of an assistant coach is to get the guy a little bit better. You can't turn Fred Johnson into Lane Johnson. Doesn't have that in him. But he was better when he left here than when he got here. Immensely better.
Exactly.
So, somebody with Jordan Mailata's physical gifts, because he's the guy you look at and say, all right, he built him up from literally ground zero. Never played the game, but he had these awesome physical gifts.
Jordan had everything else too, though, in my opinion, John. He had the mentality, the mindset, the approach, everything. I mean, Jordan was the perfect storm for Stoutland.
Yeah, but there was a lot of doubt there.
Man. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
No, I mean, in Jordan's mind.
In Jordan's mind.
I was saying yesterday, like, he didn't think he belonged when he first got here, because he's
how could he? I mean, it's not like he showed up at a college campus on a D1 school where there's good play. He showed up at the best of the best of the best of the best, Yeah.
And he's, I always joke with Joe Roseman, for people that remember, and Jordan calls him Smoking Joe, man. if you were at practice watching Joe Osman beat Jordan Mailata like a drum, you wouldn't even think that Jordan Mailata was ever going to become anything. But that's where the positivity comes into it. So he's saying, Stoutland's behind the scenes telling him, you're getting better. You're getting better. Just do the things we're teaching you. Ultimately, it's going to click. And he's become, the poster child of just Stoutland University, which they've now branded. But he had this at the core. He had these, 6'8", 380-pound people aren't supposed to move like Jordan Mailata. They it's freakish. So at the core, he had that. The athletic, and that's why he got his chance, because people are looking at him like, look at this guy. Look at the way he moves.
It's incredible.
So, that's where and then the top tier guys turn into the top tier guys, Landon, Cam. But the guys, Brett Toth, who's been here, man, that guy's been here forever. He's never going to be a star. He's never going to be a starter. But, he's got an NFL pension because he can do everything. He can play 5 positions. And he came in, I don't know if people remember, but he went to Army, and that was before they changed the rules. So, he had to do his tour originally. And that makes it really difficult for guys that would play at military academies. And they changed that rule, and he was in the midst of it. He had already lost a bunch of weight. When he got here, it was like 260 pounds. Because he was doing his duty with the Army. And you didn't need to be 300 plus pounds to do that. In fact, it hampered you. So, he came here. And he slowly developed, left, went to Arizona, went to Carolina for a little bit, keeps coming back. And he keeps coming back because he can do everything. And Stoutland has turned him into this sort of jack of all trades. He's a natural left tackle, but he can play every position, including center, although sometimes he does have difficulty snapping the football. But even guys like that, he makes better. Everybody gets a little bit better.
Yep.
And that's
which is ultimately the goal of coaching, as I've heard you talk about before. Yep.
And that's, it doesn't mean everybody's going to turn into a star. Andre Dillard, that guy had everything to be a great left tackle in the NFL from a physical perspective. And he wasn't. So, part of it's on the person as well.
Absolutely. The internal person, not just the physical. No doubt about it. Let's get to a super chat here as we talk about this offense. All right. I still got a bunch more questions here on the offense to see, what it's going to look like in 2025, what the expectation are, and what's going to be mandated, and what I mean by that is what our defense is going to dictate the Eagles need to do differently. It's fine and dandy to say, we don't need a pass more. We got Saquon. Well, what if you get a bunch of games like the Super Bowl? What will be dictated for the Eagles offense to run? Rashid says, can the passing game be better? Absolutely. But for context, AJ had 1,100 yards in 13 games, and Smith had 850 yards in 13 games. If they play a full season, it all balances out. Yeah, I mean, the attempts were way down, though, Rashid, but you're right. I mean, those are pretty significant.
Well, I don't think too many people doubt that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith can play at a high level.
Yeah, very high level, both of them.
The question is, it's a very first world problem to have. We always talk about receivers. They want the football by nature. You don't want receivers who don't want the football. And they all want the football by nature. And if you're running the football as effectively, they're not going to get as many opportunities as they would if you're not running the football effectively. So it's very difficult. That's where the whole getting everybody on the same page, getting everybody to buy in. And that's made much easier if you win. And the Eagles won 16 of 17 to close the season. So, generally nobody's going to be the asshole when you're winning 16 of 17. Nobody's going to raise their hand. Yeah, I get we're winning, but, I deserve the ball more because you look like, you look terrible. So the question becomes if you start, losing a couple games and what happens then. And it's coming. It happens to everybody, adversity in this league. It's cyclical. Guys will get hurt. Guys will have up seasons, down seasons. So there's going to be some adversity. And that's why Nick deserves probably a little bit more credit than he gets.
No doubt about it. Rashid, good super chat, brother. I'm with you. I do wonder, John, when it comes to the topic of AJ and Smitty, how many yards would, and not that yards are everything, clearly not, but how many yards would AJ Brown get? How would he be talked about in the NFL as a receiver if he just played in an offense that was like Cincinnati's, where they pass all over the play? Now, I'm not saying that offense is better than ours because they won 8 games last year. Now, they had a crappy defense, but I'm just purely asking about the skill of AJ Brown, what he would be able to accomplish in an offense like that. I mean,
if he was in a higher volume offense, I think more of the casual fans or casual, even media observers would think he's better. That's the way it works.
I think he'd be the best receiver in football.
Yeah, he's in the conversation already, which tells you how good he is.
Yeah.
He's top 5 receiver now, 3-time second team All-Pro, 3 years in a row with the Eagles. He's already regarded as a top 5 receiver. So, me, if you're in the conversation, that's good enough.
Right.
But yeah, I think, and I've talked a lot, I think AJ remains the best pure football player on the team. I think he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, no,
and everybody knows how good he is.
He is damn good, man. Tough to cover, impossible to cover, really. Eduardo checks in. He says, "Could y'all imagine if they put Mailata at running back?" I think once upon a time, Eduardo, we envisioned if they were going to use him at the goal line of some sorts, but can't do that when he's the best left tackle in football.
Yeah, people harken back to his rugby highlights.
Yeah. Well, you remember those highlights were pretty crazy, John.
Yeah, well, he's 6'8", running over people like 380, running over. That's when I talked about his movement skills. You're not supposed to be able to move like that. But yeah, that's very gimmicky. The Eagles don't need to be gimmicky. People love gimmicks. They don't need to be gimmicky. I think that's a good thing. Every once in a while, Philly special, obviously, you run a trick play, but you don't want to rely on that stuff. Lane Johnson got a touchdown. So you might see it, but certainly it's never going to be and he would not be a good running back if that's the question.
No, but I bet you he'd get some yards. I bet it'd be fun to watch.
It'd be tough to when we talk about movement skills. He doesn't move like an NFL running back.
No, you'd have to do a fullback and just quick handoff and get him to start plowing forward. Might be a bad day for the offensive linemen who are in front of him, though.
Yeah. I don't think you want Jordan playing running back.
No. Abe checks in. He says, J-Mac, why was Darnold number 5 on your MVP list for 2024?
Because he was first of all, he finished in the top 5. So what are you talking about? My God, the guy had a tremendous. Remember, it's a regular season award, Abe. Look at his season. Why wouldn't you have him in the top 5? Is the better question. He won 14 games. He played at a phenomenally high level. Why wouldn't he'd be in the top, and he was in the top 5. I believe he was 4th. I have to look it up, but I had him as 5. Yeah, why wouldn't he be? I mean, number one, right off the bat, it's a regular season award. Playoffs have nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it.
Which
Fans
I think
have
is
to
kind of
drill that.
stupid, but I get it.
Whatever. That's what it is.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying my personal
we vote
opinion
on that, and I have a vote before the Super Bowl. So even if you say, well, you should count the wild card. I forget the date of when we have to have it. Remember, the NFL honors is before the Super Bowl. It's before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's the week before.
It's the week of, leading up.
Oh, the week of. Right, yeah.
But we have to have the votes in way before that. It's a regular season award. So again, Abe, why wouldn't he be in the top 5? If you're being objective.
Abe says he was a pumpkin the last 2 regular season games. I get a kick out of when people call people pumpkin.
There's certain people I can't help. You don't like the guy. Because of the start of his career, and because he didn't live up to the hype of being whatever he was, the 3rd overall pick, and most of these fans declared him as dead. And he stinks. He's this. He's that. Well, he won 14 freaking games last year. Completed, I'm just looking it up, 361 of 545 passes, 66% of his passes, 4,319 yards, 35 touchdowns. His passer rating was 102.5. He set an NFL record for most consecutive 100 passer rating games. You're the moron.
I don't think he should have been off the top 5. I'm simply entertaining.
I'm talking to Ed. I mean, you're the moron. It's a regular season award. He set a record, an NFL record, for most 100 passing Raider games in a row. I just gave you the numbers. Are you effing kidding me?
He really only had one bad game in the regular season, right? It was that final game versus Detroit. That was it. It was 18 of 41, which is pretty bad in that game. But other than that, I think he had a pretty good year.
You think?
Yeah.
And by the way, Detroit won 15 games. It's not like he. And again.
Yeah, he didn't lose to the Panthers.
Yeah. And again, as you saw with Detroit and then the playoffs, which don't count, again, because it's a regular season award, they struggle with their offensive line late. And they couldn't block the Rams and they couldn't block the Lions, which is pretty sad when you couldn't block the Lions, to be honest, because, they had lost so many players. And Aiden Hutchinson wasn't out there. Lynn McNeil wasn't out there. But remember, they lost Darisaw, So anyway, yeah, fans annoy the shit out of me sometimes.
Come on, Abe. Let's see if we got any more chats. So we'll get to a break. That's it. All right, we'll get to our first commercial break. When we come back, I got some questions on defense. I want to finish up some offensive questions as well. I do have some questions there as we move into the 2025 season. How different or the same will it look here in the 2025? Coming off of a historic season last year with a historic running back and obviously Super Bowl champions. Going to be tough to repeat, but we'll talk about all that coming up. And then in hour number 2 as well, we had the great Gary Cobb. Looking forward to talking to G Cobb as we head into Memorial Day weekend. Appreciate all you guys being here on this Football Friday. Hit that like button, and we'll be right back in 3 minutes on Birds 365.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365. Memorial Day weekend on the docket. All right, so it's coming up. We'll have no show on Monday. All right, so Birds 364, incoming Birds 364 comments.
Yeah, we're going to get
a day off here.
I thought it was Birds 365.
Hey, listen, we have content. We got shows. We got clips. We got highlights every day. So it is Birds 365. You can watch every single day, but we will have off on Monday. We got Gary Cobb coming up here in hour number 2. So in about 24 minutes from now, we'll talk to G. Cobb, former Eagle himself. So we'll talk to him. He played, 11 or 12 years in the NFL. That's a long career in the NFL. So good for G. Cobb. We'll talk to him coming up in hour number 2. Johnny Mac, quick question here on the offense as we come out of the break, as we talked a lot about the offense there in the opening. When it comes to Jalen Hurts this year, do you think it looks more like the 2022 version in terms of statistics, or more like the 2024 version where the statistics were very tempered because of the running game?
More like last season. As long as Saquon's healthy, it's not changing until people force them to change. And I don't know if he can, Again, for as good as Miles Sanders was in 2022, and even DeAndre Swift in 2023, and they're both Pro Bowl players. They ain't Saquon. And they were near the top of the league in rushing, and part of that, a big part of that is Jalen Hurts' effect on the running game as well. They were always at the top of the NFL in rushing. in this era of sort of the Nick Sirianni era. But you can see the difference between just regular good and historically good. And that the difference there is Saquon over Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift. So the offensive line has been rock solid the entire way. So he's the extra piece of it that fell into place so perfectly.
Good stuff there. That was my last question there on offense. Probably should have asked it before the break, but all good there. Johnny Mac, now moving in to our next topic here on a Football Friday as we move along. I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. John, last year on defense, there were a lot of breakout stars, man, a lot of breakout candidates that came from that team that really came into the spotlight. Two of them are now on a podcast called The Exciting Mikes, Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship. Are there any candidates, John, any breakout star candidates on that defense in 2025? We got a lot of new faces in there, John, that are going to get a lot bigger role on the defense.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of them if it goes positive. Up front, you got Jalix Hunt, you got Moro Ajomo. I think nationally, you still even have Nolan Smith. If he does what he did for the final 8-9 games for a full season. Kaylee Ringo, if Jihad Campbell gets healthy, is Andrew Makuba, Sidney Brown, whoever wins that job. A lot of chances for young players, which can be exciting, but it could also be a bad thing because they're generally replacing proven players. And, maybe some of them hit, but the odds of them all hitting, probably not great.
I would say very low. The odds of them all hitting. Anybody that you're most confident in, or forget most confident. Anybody you're least confident?
I think they all have high ceilings. I think that's a positive. So long term, I would say no. Short term, yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult. Like, I think people are expecting way too much of Andrew Makuba and Kaylee Ringo specifically. Those would be the two guys. Like, I think you can mask some. Part of it is I think you can mask more. There's some good, there's some bad. I think you can mask that more on the defensive front. But when you're getting beat on the outside, or you're getting beat for touchdowns in coverage, and sometimes it's not even your fault, that plays, that gets really ramped up. So I think they probably have the tough. And remember the players they're replacing. There's still people that think Slice stinks. And, after watching poor cornerback play for years and years and years and years, and then you get a big time corner who knows how to play, who's savvy, who's, and then you're going back to the dark days, as far as learning and as far as that. But, then Quinyon hit the ground running. So they're like, why can't he hit the ground running? So it's all this, Zach Baun. It's similar with Zach Baun and Azeez Ojulari. Well, Zach Baun signed for $3.5 million and turned into a first-team All-Pro. Why can't Azeez Ojulari sign for $3.5 million and turn into a first-team All-Pro? Well, in theory, he could. Yeah, and if you're playing the odds, I don't like those odds.
Right.
So, but they all have upside. They all have pretty significant upside, but it generally takes a while to get there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with all those guys this year. I tell you what, man, we are putting a lot on Vic Fangio this year with all the new pieces on defense. I do think some of them are going to be better than people think, but there's no doubt a drop at all those positions. And what will Vic be able to? I mean, we just talked about coaching with Jeff Stoutland in hour number 1, talking about you got to have good players. Your goal is to make them a little bit better. So I think there's a big uphill battle for Vic Fangio this year, maybe more so than any other coach or player on the team.
Yeah, well, I don't worry about Vic. Vic's gonna be fine.
No, you don't worry about him, but he's not perfect. He doesn't have a number 1 defense every year.
I mean, no,
I think people in Philly are starting to feel like that because it's been 1 year and he was perfect. Literally perfect.
I mean, he's been coaching since 1984. And that's his first number 1 defense. So I mean, he's the guy very similar to Jeff Stoutland. He's the guy who's going to get everybody a little bit better than they would be without him. But again, you can't turn Fred Johnson into Lane Johnson. And you can't turn, an average player into a star. You just get them a little bit better. Same holds true for Vic Fangio. So they're probably going to be a little bit better with Vic than anybody else. And by the way, he should be up for that PFWA award as well, Vic Fangio.
Yeah, definitely. With the lifetime achievement award. Yeah,
but he was a head coach, so I didn't, Anyway, so yeah, he's gonna get guys a little bit better, but yeah, I mean, his history is you need players, and he's the first to say that. He's the first to say that. That's when I love talking to Vic after the Super Bowl because he gave that great interview where, how does it feel? And I talked to him about having the number 1 defense for the first time. And he's like, it's like cool for the players. It's a cool accomplishment.
It's cool for him too. Come on. He's got
I'm sure there's some, and that's why I asked Nick, but they're too smart to do it, spike the football.
Right.
But no, in Vic's case, like he knows he's a good coach. Like he knows he's very secure in his beliefs and, his ability to figure out where players need to be. And no, to him, I mean, what he said was he's the same coach he was yesterday after winning the Super Bowl. In other words, before the Super Bowl and then after the Super Bowl. Same coach, but now he's a Super Bowl winner. So he's validated. Same guy. He's already been validated by his peers long ago. And that just means more to him, which it should.
No, it does. I agree. Still got an uphill battle this year. It doesn't mean he's gonna, everything's gonna be all perfect this year. I know everybody says they trust Vic, but I do too.
Well, you should.
Yeah, I mean, I trust them, but are the players good enough? Is the bigger question?
Well, that's the much bigger question. Are they good enough on paper right now on May 23rd? I would say probably not. They lost too much, but that doesn't mean you can't win a Super Bowl a different way. Like they're not going to win the Super Bowl with Saquon Barkley running for 2,505 yards and beating his record of 2,504 with the number 1 defense next year. They might win the Super Bowl, but they're going to have to do it a little bit differently. That might be 1,800 yards. That might be the number 10 defense. But maybe the passing offense, as we talked, maybe they get better. You're going to have to do it differently. It's not going to be a Xerox copy. Never works that way. So, I mean, if people expect to have the number 1 defense, okay, that's not easy to do.
What unit will be ranked better this year? Offense or defense?
Well, the offense should be.
Should
But
be. They should have been last year.
It should have been last year. Yeah. I mean, will they? I think so this year. I think they will. But I wouldn't count Vic out. But again, he's coached for 40 years. Never had a number one defense. Finally got over the hump, had the number one defense, and to expect him to have the number one defense for 2 consecutive years after going 39 without it. If anybody's an odds expert, I think you could figure out that math pretty quickly.
Yeah, right. Offense supposed to be better. They were supposed to be last year. We'll see if they end up doing that because I think they're going to need to, John, coming in this year. You can't put it all on Vic again. I think that offense, man, that highly paid, highly powered, explosive offense needs to really carry their weight this year. And I think they did last year because
they did the final 2 games.
Yeah, and they did because the defense was so good, They answered the call. It was just a smaller call than it normally is for teams that don't have a defense as good as the team did last year. So, if the defense gets incrementally a little bit worse than they were last year, the offense has to make up for all that slack in order to get back to the dance. But I do think that the defense is so important, John. I mean, even Jalen in his press conference the other day, defense wins championships. I mean, he knows this defense has to be great.
Well, defense that doesn't allow Patrick Mahomes to get past the 50-yard line for 9 consecutive drives wins championships. Yes. That group was special in hindsight. But that group, it's one thing when you'll always hear defending champions. They're not defending, they're reigning champions because everything in the NFL changes. Unless you ran everything back, then they'd be defending. You don't have Josh Sweat. You don't have Milton Williams. You don't have Darius Slay. You don't have CJ, and on and on and on. Isaiah, Oren. A lot of players that contributed to that Super Bowl championship on defense. Right. They're not back. So,
I mean, that Super Bowl was like historic. Like I rewatched it recently, at least just a condensed version. I mean, that defense was insane in that game.
Oh, it was crazy.
I don't remember a defense being that dominant in a big game like that ever in my life. Now, I'm a younger fan. I acknowledge that. But I don't remember a game
it's
of
never
that
happened before.
Yeah, I don't.
Especially against that level of team.
Exactly. Quarterback, coach, everything.
There were, again, however many games there are on the NFL, I forget the number, but whatever, 280, whatever it is. There was one game from week 1 through the Super Bowl where the opposing offense did not cross midfield for 9 consecutive drives. One game. All season. And that was the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Think about all the shitty teams and all the shitty quarterbacks playing. That's it's almost unfathomable if you didn't see it. One game. That's it. So that's how well the defense played. And that's why when I talk about the Eagles set a record in complimentary football, the Eagles set a record for points in the postseason. Part of that is the extra game and blah, blah, blah. But they scored 55 in the championship game. They scored all those points in the Super Bowl. A lot of that had to do with the defense. And I'm not just talking about the obvious, Cooper DeJean pick 6. I'm talking about setting up the offense well by never allowing Kansas City to get past the 50 until garbage time. So, yeah, I mean, it was, and then you have to factor in Like, we all expect Zach Bond he proved that he's a great player, but will he have the same type of season as far as splash plays? It's going to be tough to duplicate.
Very tough. Very tough. And that's not a knock on Zach Bond at all, by the way. That's just a hard season to replicate for anybody.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's going to be tough for the defense to be near where they were last season. Forget about the Super Bowl. I mean, that may never happen again.
It's true. Last piece of business, John, I want to talk about before we get Gary Cobb in 920. Did you see the new award that's incoming for the NFL? The new Protector of the Year
should have been
award.
here. Yeah, should. Yeah, good for the offense.
I'm super excited about that. I feel like I don't know how that thing hasn't been here, right? I mean, how has that not been an award in the past?
Well, there's no stats for offensive linemen. It's a little bit, now that PFF is popularized, there's, knockdown percentages, pass protection percentages, more advanced stats, but there's no obvious stats. Quarterbacks, how many touchdowns, how many completions, yada, yada. Receivers, how many yards does A.J. Brown have? How many yards does Devontae have? It's easy.
Is it just me or is this my Philadelphia glasses, or do you think the Eagles have done a great job at improving the awareness of offensive linemen as a whole across the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, Jason Kelce is probably the most popular offensive lineman that ever lived.
Yeah, and I feel like the Stoutland story, which now is told by many people, just the continual how good the offensive line is, the Mekhi Becton story, like stories like that. I feel like the Eagles have just really catapulted offensive linemen to the top. And you're right, Kelce's obviously a big one as well.
Yeah, I think Kelce's the crux of it. I mean, for whatever reason, he connects with people, and it became, it was obviously a local thing, and then it became a national thing with the podcast and all that. At one point last season, he was the number 2 selling jersey, an offensive lineman, which, they're never in the top 20, and he was number 2. So, he's I would say the biggest part of it, and it's certainly Eagles driven because of him. But yeah, I also think PFF is a part of it as well. I'll give them some credit because
they brought different stats, different metrics to gauge how good an offensive lineman is. Yeah.
So now people are a little bit more educated on offensive line play. And obviously it's important. I mean, people in Philadelphia know that better than most as well, because we were talking about yesterday when you brought up the 10 most important players on the Eagles and you wanted to lump them all together. And I said that as well. I said, if I voted for the MVP of the team, I'd vote for the offensive line as a group.
Yeah.
But they're generally behind the scenes. They're generally not. Philadelphia is probably the place where you can become the biggest star. Lane's a big star. Jason's a big star. Jordan's a big star. Most cities, it's, Trent Williams is one of the greatest offensive linemen who ever lived.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do people know that? Yeah, most people know that, but is he a big star? Not really.
No. Yeah, like if you ask the average person on the street who's not a football diehard, they might not know who Trent Williams is.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of good offensive linemen.
They'll know who Jason Kelce is.
Oh, yeah. Everybody knows who Jason is. And good. Now, they called it the Protector Award, which I don't like that because there's run blocking too, but I'm glad they're having the award. And yeah, the Eagles, probably Jordan Mailata would have won it last year. They had it.
Lane Johnson would have won 6 of those things if they had it his whole career.
Maybe. Jason probably would have won it because of his, his
celebrity status.
Yeah. But Jordan Mailata was the top graded player in football last year by PFF. regardless of position. Number one, which is crazy.
That is crazy, man. Best NFL player in the league last year, graded.
Yeah. Number one.
Yeah.
I asked him. That was
the story of Jordan Mailata though just keeps getting better.
I asked him last year. I said, "Do you know your PFF ratings?" He was like, "Yeah." It's like my wife always puts them in our group text, bragging about him. But that's the only reason he knew them. But yeah, I mean, he was unbelievable last year, Jordan Mailata.
Yeah, I like those stories though because it shows you, these athletes are humans. I think sometimes people forget that athletes. Are humans,
they very much are humans.
And
I try to explain that as much as possible.
Like yeah,
I try to explain that as much as possible.
I always tell the story of when I was growing up as a kid, my dad used to say to me, "Athletes are people who play games for a living. The people are important. The games are not." So he's right about that.
Yeah, I mean.
Now, most people will say, "Hey, the games are important too." I get it. It's just an idea, though, that the people are the players are people.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I always cringe when like a reporter will ask about week 6 against Dallas because Dallas is coming up,
right?
The site might be 2-3 weeks down the road. And I'm like, dude, you're wasting a question. Because their jobs are different. And, they're so hyper-focused, as I said, week to week. Who's the next opponent? Compartmentalized, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They're so focused in on that. And then, after you do have the poor performance and which hasn't happened much for the Eagles in recent years. Those guys got to turn the page quickly. So they're not going to show the same emotion a lot of times that fans are so upset.
Right.
Like Tampa Bay in the playoffs a couple of years ago. So upset. They can't look at it that way. They got to go to work the next day. They got to get better.
Right. Here's one more super chat before we get to JAKIB. Go ahead, John. You can finish up your point.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just different, but yeah, it is about the people more than the game. And you hear AJ talk about his process all the time. And I think people see it with Jalen. And they really are hyper-focused on what's in front of them, not week 8 or repeating the Super Bowl. Because if you start thinking about repeating Super Bowl champions in May, you ain't going to repeat the Super Bowl champions.
Right.
You got to get better in May, and then everything takes care of itself down the road.
Yep. AJ's been on a tear this offseason with some great commentary, great advice to people. Fly Parks checks in. He says, J-Mac, will the Protector Award go primarily to a tackle? I would think so.
I would think so because they're the highest profile guys. But like I said, if Kelce would have won it, if they had it,
I think a guy like Creed Humphrey now, maybe even like a Frank Ragg now could get in there too.
Yeah, I mean, I would say tackles have the advantage because they're considered, but Jason sort of transcended the game, so I'm pretty sure he would have won one.
Yeah,
if they had that award.
If I listed out top 5 candidates this year, I would say the Eagles' 2 tackles are probably 1 and 3, or they're up there. Trent Williams, maybe Tristan Wirfs, and maybe Penei
Sewell.
Yeah, there you go.
Penei Sewell will be up there.
There you go. There's my top 5 candidates. Good stuff there. I appreciate the super chat, Fly Parks. Let's go to our main man, Gary Cobb, joining us from Fox 29, former Eagle himself. He joins us on the show right now here on Birds 365. Give me 1 second. Here he is joining us now, Gary Cobb. G Cobb, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Football Friday, brother?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Good to see you, G. Saw you down there this week. Happy Memorial Day weekend too, before I jump into it.
But, that's right, yeah.
Here we are again. It seems every year, G, we're talking about Jalen Hurts. We're talking about a new play caller. We're talking about this. This time, I wanted to get your thoughts. This time, I thought he seemed a little bit more comfortable. Kevin Patullo's been here. He's worked with him. Did you get that sense, or am I on an island?
No, I definitely got that sense, and then of course, Jalen's getting older. He's been into it, but they have been together. I mean, how many years has Petula been there? Where
he's been here since Nick, so this will be year 5. Yeah.
So he's familiar with him. I'm sure that they've been talking where in key situations and things, he's talking to him. So this is not like a new personality coming in. And so I think they probably have a lot of things they already have a understanding of each other. And so with communications and everything, I think he feels good about that. And I think he probably has an idea of the way he thinks. See, and they both have an idea about the way each other think. And so I think the communication is good. And so he feels more confident now. He's already been in situations where you're in the middle of the storm with somebody, which right in the middle of the game, there's a key play and you hear a certain voice. And they both, I think, have to feel better that because they've been through it before together. So I think he probably feels like this is not as new as before when you're bringing in people from outside that, he doesn't know as well.
I got the sense, too, that Jalen just seemed more comfortable talking about it as well. Obviously, more used to the situation now. Gee, what's your expectation for the offense this year? You thinking a lot of change? What do you think with the new coordinator coming in here, coming off the season last year? Obviously, a historic running season. I would anticipate defenses are going to come in trying to stop that running game. What do you think for the offense this year in 2025?
Well, I was listening to AJ. You see AJ feel very comfortable. And you know what? Come on. As much as, I can appreciate AJ coming in. He didn't say anything about, he wants the ball and all that. I don't know a wide receiver, at least good ones.
You don't want one. Who doesn't want
the ball? They want the ball. They want, so I expect them to throw more because I think of, the point you just made, which is, they ran the ball so much last year. I don't think that they want to put that much weight on Saquon to have him working that much, because, how long do you want him to play? I mean, you'd like to extend his career and things. So I could see them not running the ball as much. I think teams are going to be trying to stop their running game. So I think that is all going to work into where they end up throwing it more. Not that they're going to abandon their running game, because I don't think they're going to do that. But I think they'll probably throw the ball more often, and they'll probably be better at it because, they've got another season under their belt. And I think that they'll be more comfortable making adjustments. But defense is all off season. So you got to realize the way a lot of the offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators, the way they work. Whatever was the big thing last year, all of them are going in there. So everybody's going like, how can we stop this doggone Barkley? He's not going to run the ball down our throat this year. So we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And they're sitting in there, they're, doing got all their, mock-ups, what they're looking at. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Maybe we're going to stack the box more and everything. So they've been working on that. So I expect some teams to look at what KC did in the Super Bowl, because they were effective in slowing them down and stopping them. So they're going to see what they did. And of course, just like in the Super Bowl, there is no defense that takes away everything. If a defense is strong against the run, then they are not thinking you're going to pass. So it's weak against the pass.
Yeah.
So you can't have a defense that takes away everything. So I think that it just all tells us what they're going to throw the ball more. They're going to be making adjustments. I think they're going to put more, and they've started, as you notice, they let Jalen make checks and give him a lot of responsibility. He's going to be that much more comfortable with making adjustments at the line of scrimmage. So I could see defenses are going to come in. They want to stop Barkley. They're stacking the box. There's adjustments are made at the line of scrimmage, and the Eagles getting the ball to AJ and Devontae and Dallas and all the guys. And so I see them throwing the ball more. Not that they're going to abandon the running game, but I think that their teams are going to make alignments, which is going to kind of move them and allow them to throw the ball more.
I'm just going to push back on one thing you said there, G.
Okay.
The Eagles defense was able to take away everything for about 3 quarters in the Super Bowl. So I want to say, how much, as a longtime linebacker in this league, how much did it warm your heart to see how Vic Fangio used Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, and even Oren Burks, who stepped into the playoffs and was lights out? Yeah. How much did it, especially after watching linebacker play in Philadelphia for years and years and years, to have the best linebacking room in the NFL? Nobody saw that coming. I don't care what they say. Nobody saw that coming.
You're right. But, the talk people are talking about, the linebacker is not as important and everything. Now, maybe there are not as many linebackers on the field, but the linebacker position is still just as important, because a lot of times, if anything, they put the linebackers in a tougher position now because they've got all this field to cover. A lot of times they're not in a one-on-one situation with wide receivers, but a lot of times they are in a zone position where in that area in the zone, they got to cover that guy man to man. And, if he goes deep, they got people deep, of course, but in that area, they got to be good athletes. And that's why, Zach Bond just did an outstanding job of how good an athlete he is, really. You see he's able to, cover those receivers in those areas, make adjustments. He got his hand on the ball so many times, very smart. And I think that's the big thing that showed through with him. He a lot of times he see the formation, anticipate what the other team is going to do. And a lot of times as linebackers, Nakobe Dean had a good year too. But a lot of times as linebacker, you got to know formations. You got to know what teams like to do out of certain formations. Who are they trying to get the ball to? What route does he like to run out of that formation? And so as a linebacker, you got to be smart. Not that all of them are, but the good ones are.
No. Yeah, I'd love watching old NFL films of Luke Kuechly where he'd be just calling out every offensive play.
Yep.
And those are the guys' instincts. And that, I'll follow up Jihad Campbell because, that's to me, what do you see when you look at Jihad Campbell, G? Do you see an all-ball linebacker? Do you see an edge rusher? Because that's the problem with me. Can he handle the football IQ part of it to be that true all-ball linebacker? You talked about Zach Bond's natural instincts versus, all right, this guy's so athletic. Maybe he's a little bit undersized, but let's try to turn him into Micah Parsons and just let him go after the quarterback.
Well, I think of course, they're going to try him and they're going to let him play both spots to see what he does. But I see a guy, I think, who can do both. Being down there at Alabama, when you're in a system where, he was down there with Nick Saban for a while, the kid is a smart football player. He's been taught on a pro level, and that's the system that they were putting in down there. So a lot of the things that the Eagles are going to be talking to him about, he's already seen. And a lot of times in college now, they show and all the stuff the pros are doing, because a lot of them are emulating. A lot of them go get pro coaches to come in and run their system. So I think that that's something they looked at. That was part of what their study was. One of the reasons they got him in the first round is they think that he can do both, that he's got that capability. Now we're going to find out, but I think that he's already been exposed. I mean, he was playing off the line. He was doing more of that at Alabama than rushing the passer. He was playing off the ball. And you could see, I saw a lot of times where he's getting his hands on balls, making interceptions. So I think you got a guy that they pinpointed him because they think he can do both. And they're going to find out, depending on what other people can do. But they're going to let him rush the passer some. But I think primarily, especially depending on the Nakobe Dean situation, that he could start off the season playing off the ball. And, you're in there with the guy, who knows, of course, the game very well, as we were just talking about. So he's going to have veteran players in there around him. So if he starts off inside playing off the line of scrimmage, I think he'll be fine.
Is that a risky pick to you, G Cobb, taking a tweener type of guy like that, or do you trust Vic Fangio to get the most out of him?
Well, I mean, who he was playing in Alabama. Who was he playing against? I think he was playing against the best guys coming out in the draft. They've seen him matched up against some of those guys. So, this is not if you're playing at Alabama, you're playing against the top players. So I don't think this is a huge jump. I mean, this is the pros, of course, but with the football intelligence too. They're with Nick Saban, they're showing all the looks that the pros show. So he's been exposed to a lot of the things, and that's why I think the Eagles, this is part of why they drafted him, is they expect him to be able to come out. And I was, looking at him out there, he seemed comfortable with what they were doing, even though he wasn't practicing. I think he's going to be comfortable doing everything. He's been doing a lot of these same checks, a lot of the same defenses. That's what he's been playing at Alabama, because they have multiple defenses, because you had a pro coach in Nick Saban who is coached on the pro level and everything. So I think he's seen a lot of this. So they expect him to make the adjustment. We'll see if he's able to.
Defense as a whole, lost a lot of productive players. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Darius Slay, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Isaiah Rodgers. We talked about Oren Burks. A lot of contributors to what was a number one defense and the Super Bowl winning team. Is it realistic to expect them to just not have any hiccups and hit the ground running and Vic cures all? And because all of a sudden, we just talked about Jihad Campbell, rookie, but they're counting on a bunch of young players who haven't played a lot. Kaylee Ringo at corner. Moro Jomo inside. Some of these prove it players at edge. Andrew Makuba at safety is a rookie. That's a lot of moving parts, even for Vic Fangio.
I think so. From looking at them last year, though, when we saw, what happened last year. So the way that they did such a great job, and it was not only Vic, but his assistant coaches, they did a great job of teaching and developing those players throughout the season. So I'm confident they'll do it again, but I don't think that they're going to start out that way. I think there are going to be some bumps in the road. So it's going to get rocky a little bit there, probably at the start, as guys are learning the system and getting so comfortable with it. But I expect them to make the adjustment. I saw them do it last year, but we're going to see. But the most important thing I think that I'm going to be looking for is, can they get to the passer? See, because if they got pass rushers, they can get there with, of course, Moro Jomo. Can he do it consistently? Can he get pressure inside? Jalen Hunt coming off the corner. Nolan Smith, was what he did last year, was that just something that we don't see again this year? Is he going to wear down because of his, size and things? So, those are going to be some interesting things. But getting to the quarterback, can you do that? Can you beat a one-on-one block? Because people are going to be looking at Carter and double teaming him. But can they beat those one-on-one blocks where you get consistent pressure? I think that's the most important thing. I think they're going to be able to make the adjustments in the secondary. You got some guys that I think are capable of getting the job done. Some of the times that they got a chance to play, I liked what I saw. So I think they'll be all right. But they've got some adjustments to make. Makuba, you're going to try to throw him right in there. I don't know. We will see. He's going to have an adjustment period where, the NFL, you got all these guys that can run. You got so many guys that got some big receivers that he's going to have to deal with. So he's got adjustments to make. That whole crew is going to have adjustments to make. But I think over time, I think they'll be okay. But we'll have to wait and see. Vic is going to have to work his magic on these guys. And it won't be easy. There are going to be some bumps in the road. So I think they're going to start out rocky, but hopefully they get it together before the season's over.
Yeah, I think they will, JAKIB. JAKIB, a lot of talk about the coordinators. Let's talk about the head of the snake. Nick Sirianni gets his extension this week. I think we all expected it to come. Obviously, he's been very successful in his first 4 years. What is Nick Sirianni to you, Cobb. The conversations around him are very interesting to me. When you look at the accolades and the records and everything he's accomplished, it's pretty hard to believe. What is Nick Sirianni to you, Jay?
Well, I think the big thing, Nick, is to me is I see a guy learning on the job. I see a guy getting better. You can see his confidence just in the news conference from when he started. You see a guy growing in the job. And I give him a lot of credit because he hasn't been the kind of guy that is not willing to admit it. I mean, he's kind of admitted, hey, I'm learning. And I think that the thing that I like the most about Nick is I see the relationship with the players. He's going to be honest with those guys and tell them, look, this is what we got to do. And talking to an individual player and tell them, hey, look, you got to do this better. And being honest with the players. And he developed relationships with these guys where they believe in Nick. They don't. I don't hear them saying anything about how he's being dishonest with them. And I think he has developed a relationship with the players. He has to where they're willing to go to battle for him because he's honest with them. He hasn't. He's made mistakes. We've seen him where mostly, let's say, he gets out of control there on the sideline and things, but he's being himself. And so I can appreciate a guy like that. And I see the players, they like Nick. I mean, it might not like everything he does, because sometimes, I mean, he's going to chastise guys and call it the way he sees it, where they got to improve in a certain area. But I like the way that he's developed relationships with them. He's got genuine relationships where he's honest with them about how they're playing and what he wants, and being straight up with them about what they need to do. And I like some of the things the way they do things. Like even they're in the auditorium. I look up there at what they're talking about. They're saying, man, and the thing they're stressing is we force turnovers, but we take care of the football ourselves. Where they got the thing up there in the auditorium, and meaning that, look, this is the way we're going to win. And then I see the way they start our practice. I see the guys on defense over there punching the ball out and everything, and how that helped them last year, and how these young guys bought into that. And, I got a lot of good things to say about Nick. Now, like I said, he's not perfect, but then he's not lying about it and trying to hide that, saying he's the perfect coach. But he knows he needs to get better. But he's in there with all the guys. And I would love playing for a guy like Nick because he's honest with you. If you didn't play well, he's not going to be, lying to you. But at the same time, he cares about you. But look, you're not here because I care about you. You're here because you're playing well, and you got to play well. You got to get the job done. I can't ask anything more than that of a coach. He's honest with the guys, and I hear the guys talking, and I talk to other guys. They appreciate it. Nick will tell you the truth, man. Hey, look, dude, you got to play better or you're not going to be here, I mean, how could you ask for anything better? And he's honest with them, and I think he's done a good job. So he's really bonded with his players, and they play hard for him. I don't think you could ask anything more than that for a coach.
On-field OTAs are going to start next week. Little off the beaten path with you here. Want to tap into your decade plus in the NFL. I would say, I've been covering. I'm old. I've been covering this league for way too long.
Join the party.
Yeah, about 30 years, and I always say, I didn't learn to watch practice till about 10 years in, about your playing career, a little bit more, your entire playing career, before I talked to enough people and, they taught me how to evaluate practice. As a former player, do you ever roll your eyes when you see people paying attention to Jalen Hurts' completion percentage or, tell the viewers what you're doing at practice, what you're trying to accomplish at practice. It's not a game, it's practice. Let's go Allen Iverson on people. It's practice.
Well, they the Eagles, they don't even let us, get a look at too much of the practices.
But what they do in training camp, and and you'll see all the, the tweets and the stories about, basically so-and-so intercepted this. Yeah. I remember when Doug was here, they used to have 10-10-10 practices. So, and they would have to educate people that, look, the defense is serving the offense in this period. The offense is serving the defense in this period.
Mm-hmm.
So from that standpoint, just, the whole game aspect of, people taking it, you're trying to get better.
That's right. That's right. Well, the thing I like to see it in the practice is a lot of the one-on-one, when you get some of the best players where they got to, times in the pass rush drills, of course, you've got these guys battling with each other. Other times in the one-on-one drills with the pass routes, you get a chance to see guys match up against each other. And even with that, a lot of times you're not totally one-on-one with a guy. You got help, let's say inside, or you got help deep. And so it's not where you're in one-on-one all the time. So, but you get a chance. I like getting a chance to see the guys battle in situations where they're kind of in one-on-one. And then to see the adjustments. To see adjustments that are made, which a lot of times in practice, is not really all like game situations. But I guess that's the best thing that I enjoy seeing is the one-on-one situation and seeing the guys how they match up then, because a lot of the other things they're getting in defenses and they're doing things that unless you know all of what they're going to do in an upcoming game and things, you can't really make evaluations as much because you don't know the whole situation of what they're doing. You don't know all the calls. But I do like to see the one-on-one situations because I think you get a chance to see players and how good they are and how good their fundamentals are in those situations.
Jay, last year was a historic year for this football team. And you look at what they did in the offseason last year. All right. Saquon Barkley, Vic Fangio, Cooper DeJean, Quinion, Zach Bond, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Mekhi Becton, all massive contributors to a team that just dominated on their way to a Super Bowl victory. What do you think so far what Howie's done this year? I know obviously we can't grade it like we can last year. This season hasn't happened, but just your thoughts on kind of what Howie's done to retool some of the losses and get ready for a chance to, try and go compete for a Super Bowl again.
Well, of course, when it comes to the free agency, he hasn't made the type of acquisitions he made last year. But, of course, they got, an offense that really is pretty much, are ready to go. They got all these guys coming back. So offensively, the big thing is defensively. So the thing that I'm going to be looking at are these draft picks. They need these kids to mature and be able to help them in this first year. And so seeing how, Makuba, can he help them right now? Of course, Campbell, we talked about him, can he get healthy to where he gets in there and he starts getting some reps? And we'll see, because we know as an athlete, from what I've seen of him already, I already know he's good enough athlete, to help them. But can he help them where he's able to process all the information of what he's going to be doing? Like if he were playing off the ball, can he make the adjustments they need to make on each down? Can he read the coverages? I mean, the routes and be able to do what he needs to do. Of course, if he can rush the passer, that's just something that's kind of a one-on-one type of situation. We'll see how good he is at that. But the big thing I want to see is I want to see him playing off the ball. Can he play there and help them in his first year? Can he make the mental adjustments that need to be made? That's going to be a big thing. And the same thing with Makuba, because the different coverage. So a lot of it's mental. Got to be in the right place. You got to know the coverage. You got to know the adjustment when the guy goes in motion. And those type of things. Of course, Ty Robinson is going to be a big thing. Can he help them? Can he give pass rush pressure? You know what I mean? Up the middle. You know, can he be effective there? Can he make them to where he can beat a one-on-one block there inside and get pressure on the quarterback? That's, you know, those are going to be key things. You know, can any of these young kids help them in this first year? Because they need the help, man. They got to get pressure on the quarterback. That's what left there. You know, that left. Some of that left with those other guys signing elsewhere. And if they can't, then that eventually, that, you know, I don't care who's in the secondary. If you don't get pressure on the quarterback, a good team was going to come in and they're gonna slice you up some. You know, if you're not getting pressure on that quarterback. So can these guys beat the block? You know, and some of the other young kids that Jalen Hunt, I want to see. You know, was he legit last year? Meaning, like, does he make a step? Moro Ojomo, I mean, you know, I want to see what he does. And I'm going to be looking at those guys, because if they can get pressure on the quarterback, then these boys are going to have another chance to win again, I think, because the offense is already there. And I think the offense is going to get better because they're playing with each other again another year. So and I expect Jalen to get better. So that I think the passing game is going to get better, and then you still got that running game to deal with. So the offense, I think, I feel confident about them. But defensively, that's where you know, we're going to find out. And I think the big thing is the pass rush pressure. You cannot let a guy back there, or these good quarterbacks will chew you up. I don't care who you got out there covering the guy. If he's getting too much time, you can't stop people. So can they get pressure on the quarterback? And so I'll be eyeballing those guys, man. You know, Ty Robinson, man, they need help from you, dude. Can you give them the help?
4th round pick, G, year 1. It's a big ask.
That's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
That's
Think about how long it took Milton to become Milton. Yeah.
I know.
Sometimes it takes some time.
I know.
At Gary Cobb, make sure you follow G Cobb on the X platform. Locally, you can check him out at Fox 29 with our friends over there, gcobb.com. Make sure you check out his website. I don't want to talk about it, but I got to talk about it. People want to hear from you. This damn Tush Push, I'm so glad it's over. 50 plays a year, they run it, G. You know, you were down there. AJ was sort of like, you know, come on. It's 1 yard. Jordan Mailata was like, all right, we won't push. I got the feeling that from the player's perspective, it's like, hey, you know what? We're effing good. We got a great offensive line. We got a quarterback who can squat 600 pounds. This is not the reason we're good. But they branded this thing up to this point where everybody wants to talk about it, Chief.
Yes. Yeah,
Your thoughts. So there's the platform. Your thoughts on the damn Tush Push.
Well, you know, I thought it was going to be adios. I'm surprised that it made it.
Yeah,
through.
we all did. Yeah.
But, you know, I think that they'll continue to utilize the play. I can see where they're adding things to it, where they're going to give people different looks. To where, you know, you think they're getting ready to do the Tush Push and they end up doing something else to keep teams honest. But I think that, you know, they still have, you know, a good offensive line. They're able to come out. They'll be able to utilize that same play and with the same people there, you know, so they're going to score, you know, quite a bit off of it. And they're going to make adjustments to give other people things to think about. So, I just hate that it seems like it just, you know, takes away from how good the Eagles are. They got an outstanding offensive line, and that's the big thing. You know, it's not that just, you know, they got this little gimmick play, you know, that gets them over. They got good athletes. They got good football players, and that's the reason that they got a Super Bowl ring, and they'll be trying to get another one.
Yeah.
Good stuff, G Cobb. We appreciate you joining in here on a football Friday before Memorial Day, brother. Big weekend. So I hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, one that we honor the great people that allowed us to sit here and talk about football every single day. G, we appreciate you joining in today, brother. We'll talk to you again soon. All right, man.
All right. Have a good one. Go Birds.
Go Birds. Thank you, Gary. There's Gary Cobb joining us here on Birds 365, a Football Friday edition of the show as we lead you into Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, as I just mentioned there, Memorial Day weekend, it's a big one, everybody. All right, we always got to pause to honor the brave men and women that gave their lives in service of our country. Freedom is not free, everybody, and we talk about football every day, so we appreciate those people. We'll take off on Monday for that. Johnny Mac, thought Cobb was great today, man. We hit on everything kind of in the offseason. I thought he articulated some things really well today.
Yeah, and he's the same place where I am. I'm most concerned about the edge rushing, the pass rushing situation, because that's the one where I'm like, all right, if things are going to go wrong, where are they going to go wrong? And that's where I land. And, the Eagles have potential answers, but, usually it's pretty, again, it's a first world problem because this team's so talented, but usually you can look at an NFL team and say, all right, they're weak here, they're weak there. The Eagles have some guys who could turn into big time players like Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt. I'm conflating the two. And even Azeez Ojulari and the name people don't like to speak of, who I won't bring up again. They have some potential answers, but they also have some potential avenues to where it bottoms out and becomes a real bad situation. And I can't think of another position where that's the case. You can say corner, but you still have Mitchell, you still have DeJean. You can say safety, but you still have a steady presence in Reed Blankenship. Edge, it could go bad. Especially if Nolan Smith, I thought G brought up, can he hold up for 17 games? People say, why would you say that?
Yeah,
well,
right.
Think about it. He played basically full-time starter snaps for 9 weeks. The 9th week was the Super Bowl. If that were week 9 of the NFL season and you tear your triceps, you're out for the season. That's why people are saying that. So that G and I are on the same page. That to me is the biggest issue with this team heading into on-field OTAs next week.
A lot of pressure too on those rookies, man. You heard G Cobb talking about those rookies stepping up, boy. That's an uphill battle, John, to expect some of those rookies to be able to contribute at that level. But I don't think he's wrong. If they want to repeat, that might be necessary.
Yeah, some. Jihad, because of the injury, probably push it back. You got to be a little bit more
so Makuba, right?
Oh, like, yeah, because he's going to be in the mix from day one. So you can't push things back. Now, the good part about that is you should have competition, and if it's not the worst thing in the world if he pushes Sidney Brown and Sidney Brown wins the job, but one of them's got to play well. And it might have to be Makuba.
Yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle. Also on Ty Robinson there too. And I'm with Gary. I think Ty Robinson has to be a contributor this year. And that's a big ask for a 4th-round draft pick, man. It really is.
Well, I think at what level? Like if he's the 4th defensive tackle.
Well, can he be what Moro Ujoma was last year?
Yeah.
Is that too big?
No, I think that's fine. That's fine. But if he's expected to be more, Moro 300 snaps, somewhere in that range, can he be a contributor? Yeah, I think so. But if it's more than, like, Moro's got to step into the Milton Williams role, can he do that? To me, that's a bigger question. Like, I'm fine with guys like Ty Robinson being the 4th man in a rotation, guy like Jalen Hunt, if he's the 4th in the edge rotation, that's fine. That's actually good. But, now they're being, labeled into, well, you have Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. We've talked ad nauseum about Jordan Davis's role. So you almost have 3 starters inside. Moro's got to step up into that Milton role. in theory.
Right.
And if Jalix Hunt has to start opposite Nolan Smith because the other guys bail, that's a big jump. So, I'm very comfortable with Moro Ajomos, the fourth defensive tackle, as the second or third.
Right. Yeah, it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
We'll see how it all shakes out. Johnny Mac, great week of shows this week, man. Great conversation there with Gary Cobb and you as well, following it up there with some good insight from you, man. John, anything on your agenda for Memorial Day weekend, brother? We got off on Monday, no shows there on Monday. What do you got? What do you got on the docket, Johnny Mac?
A lot of grilling if it doesn't rain.
There you go. That's one thing I meant to ask Gary. The people in the chat were saying Gary looks like he's the uncle who's grilling out, man. I meant to ask Gary what he was grilling up this weekend.
Yeah. Hopefully the weather holds. I haven't looked at it, but
I don't think it's supposed to be very good. Let me double check that.
I guess I know it's going to be cool. I'm not worried about that. I just want no rain.
Yeah, right now it says no rain where I am, but I'm not sure about where you are.
Yeah, so we'll see. But I got some people in town as well. Unfortunately, one of their relatives passed away. So, they're in town.
What are you grilling up? Anything specific? Any meats or brisket?
What I'm told, Zander. What I'm told.
It's a classic answer right there. It's whatever I'm given, as long as
yes.
You'll man the grill, and everybody will let you know what to grill. Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. We appreciate you, man. I'm with Philly Talk, man. No more rain and wind. The wind in May recently in April has been crazy, man. Every time I walk outside, I'm getting hit with wind and rain. I'm with you, Philly Talk, brother.
Yeah, we need this to turn, and it doesn't look like it's going to turn weather-wise for a little bit more time, but then it'll get hot and we'll be complaining about that. So,
John, I'll take the hot, man. I've always been a guy that can handle the heat.
Well, there's a difference. I'm with you. I like it hot more than cold, but I don't want it to be 95 at training camp. Just give me 85 and then I'm cool.
Yeah, it's funny. Whenever the summer comes, I'm always like, I don't want it to get cold again. And then when I'm in the cold, I kind of appreciate it a little bit more, the difference in seasons, because it makes you get excited for when it gets warm again. But when it gets hot, I'm always like, man, I got to move to Florida or something where it's hot all year round. But I don't know if I can handle it at the end of the day. Johnny Mac, great week of shows, brother, this week here on Birds 365. We'll be back on Tuesday, everybody. So we will have off on Monday. Your final thoughts, John, on this week of Birds 365, brother.
Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Enjoy the time off, and spend some time to thank the people for giving us the ability to do those things and talk things like first world problems, as I've been saying. Talk football, which is first world problem,
major first world problem for sure.
And you got a good team on top of it, so take some time to enjoy it.
Good stuff. Johnny Mac, appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. All right, man. Enjoy your long extended weekend. I send my condolences to the people in your family that lost somebody, and I hope you have a great weekend, my friend.
All right. Thanks, all.
All right, there's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow at JF McMullen over on Twitter. Great week of shows this week as we continue to move along here in the offseason. It's been a good offseason, I think, for the Birds, and man, I'm ready for football. I am ready for it. It's only May, and I'm ready for football. I think we're like, 104 days maybe away? Let's see, how many days until, September 4th, right? 104 days. I nailed 104 days, everybody, until the Birds drop the banner in front of the Dallas Cowboys and boom, boom, boom. Belt to ass in that opening week on the Cowboys. Any Cowboy fans in here today? I see all the great people talking about grilling. Man, you guys are Brandon Howard. You're not fooling anybody, man. You're grilling up leather straps for the family this weekend. Man, you laying a strap of leather on your taco and rolling that thing up. Come on, Rich. You ain't fooling me. Come on, Brandon. You're not fooling me. You guys are grilling up that leather meat, that nasty-ass leather. Flexing says, you can't cook. I can grill. I can't cook, all right? Flex, if you put me indoor with a pot and a pan, I don't touch it. I don't move it. I don't touch it. I don't fill it with water. I don't season it. I don't do anything. You put me outside in the sunshine with a grill, some charcoal, a Blackstone, some meat. Come on, man. I can grill it up. I was grilling up this weekend, man. Are you kidding me? I was grilling up this last week in the shore, down the shore. I don't have any pictures of it. My sister took a picture of me grilling up. All right, but I was on the grill. Come on, man. One thing I know is this, Flex. All right, this is one thing I know. That I can grill better than Rich and Brandon Howard combined. All right, that's Flex. That's one thing I can guarantee, brother. All right, that's one thing I can guarantee. Look at Rich talking about recipes. Nerds use recipes, Rich. It's about the touch. It's about the feel. All right? Ask my Italian mother. My mom says, I've never read a recipe in my life. It's about the feel. It's about understanding the ingredients. Come on, Rich. Come on, Rich. Not true, Z. I get a quarter cup of this, and I put it on here, and then a quarter cup of this, and I put... No. A-team, I'm good, man. You grill for your family, man. I'll stay over here. Exactly. Killer Tomato knows what I'm talking about. Season with your heart. There you go, man. Look at my boy Bree Howard. I challenge you to a dual Zander grill off. Yo, let's get you. You fly into Philly. All right. I'll set the cameras up and we'll stream that sucker on JAKIB Sports. And we'll make Flex, Killer Tomato, Cody K, and maybe even Numb Nuts Rich can be one of our taste testers. All right. All right. Maybe even Rich can. So A-Team says, baking, you need to be exact. Little does Jason know that I live in a family where my mom and my sisters all bake homemade sourdoughs, homemade cakes, homemade. My girlfriend has a little bake shop that she sells baked goods down the shore. I mean, yo, Jason A-Team, stay over there, brother. All right. I'm coming. I'm going to hold you to it. Brandon, you know, brother. You know I'll welcome you with open arms. All right. Z is out here clapping people for crapping grilling skill. I mean, we got Canadians telling me that they know how to grill. I can't buy it, Michael. I can't buy it. All right. I just can't buy it. J-Team. Appreciate you, A-Team. We bake all of our shit. Yeah, same in our house, man. My mom makes sourdough. It's insane. All right, it's insane. My mom's sourdough is crazy, man. My mom does actually sell her sourdough to people at work. They want her to make homemade sourdough. It's a process, though, man. Making homemade sourdough is no joke. It's no joke, man. Yeah, but my mom does that. My sisters do that. My beautiful girl does that. Everybody does that. All the girls do that in my family. But I can get on the grill. All right, that's it. I told you. Indoor, I'm out. I'm out. All right. How much for the sourdough? I don't know. I forget they do. Dude, my mom's crazy, Flex. My mom does regular sourdough. She has chocolate sourdoughs. She'll do feta and olive. She'll do cheddar jalapeno. She does everything, man. All right. She does everything when it comes to the sourdough. All homemade ingredients. All good, clean stuff, man. Oh, dude, yeah. You need a loaf, Flex? You text me, brother. I'll get you set up with a loaf. A-Team is right, though. Baking needs precision. Sounds like a guy who's never baked a good item in his life. That's what you sound like. Cowboys fans, microwave. You're right. SMD says, food in Toronto was okay. Don't know about any other city or province in Canada. The only times I went to Canada, I was real young. I did go to I had a lot of tournaments when I was a kid in Canada because I played hockey. So we went to a bunch of, and then I went to Mont-Tremblant. I'll never forget Mont-Tremblant in Quebec. That was incredible. Mont-Tremblant was awesome. Where's my Canadians in the chat? Have you ever been there, Brandon Howard? Mont-Tremblant in Quebec? Yeah, she makes focaccia. Yep, Rich, she does. She does that with her starter. She's got a bunch, obviously, the sourdough starter. So she can turn it really into anything. Where's my boy, what's his name? Sourdough oven bread. It's the best, Yeppa. It's the best, man. It's the best. Nope, I haven't. Yes, they have these things called beaver tails there, Brandon Howard. Have you ever heard of them? Beaver tails and sugar on snow. Dude, sugar on snow. You boil maple syrup. You get this big pan of snow and you pat it down real hard. And then you pour the boiled maple syrup down on the snow in like a long line, and you put a popsicle stick in the end of it, and you let it sit there, and then you roll the popsicle stick, and then you have like a popsicle stick of boiled maple syrup. It's crazy, man. It's so good. And then the beaver tails, yeah, it's like they're like fried. I don't know exactly what they are. I just know that they were crazy good. I was real young when I got them, though. I think I was in Mont Tremblant when I was like 10 or 12 years old. Let me see if I have anything from that. No, I don't. I love how the iPhone, like, if you search a location, you can see your pictures from there. But I was too young. I don't even think I had an iPhone then. We should have a giveaway for dinner at your mom's. Yeah, that's a big giveaway. All right. You got to be more than a member to get involved in that. All right. I'm telling you, I grew up spoiled, man, when it comes to food. I'm telling you now, I did. All right. Make sure it isn't that yellow snow. You can't do that, dirty air. That's a big problem. All right. Only thing Canadians know how to grill is Canadian bacon. Yeah. So messy, but man, it's good. Diabetes on a popsicle stick. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. iPhone about to be crazy expensive. Everything's crazy expensive now, man. Making me hungry. Rico Mart, me too, man. I don't eat breakfast. I'm not a big breakfast guy. I never have been. But yeah, we start talking about food at 10 o'clock. I'm gonna get a little hungry. I love crawfish. So Texas Tea, I got some great stories about crawfish. Now, I can't do it like Jalen Hurts, and I don't do it myself. But when I went to school down at Alabama, just full disclosure, I used to get so sauced. I'll say that. All right. On Saturdays. And we would bounce from house to house. And I was friends with like everybody at all the different places. And they would have crawfish boils. And they would just have tables covered in crawfish and corn and potatoes and everything you do in a crawfish bake or crawfish boil. Unbelievable. That's maybe one thing I missed about Alabama. Outside of the crawfish, the food was awful, man. Awful food. Like I'll never forget when I left Tuscaloosa for the last time. And I was like, man, I cannot wait to go eat some food. All right. I can't wait to go get some food because the food down there is bad. But the crawfish, incredible. Incredible. I used to bounce when we would grade the houses. It was fun. I love crawfish. Good stuff. I like most food. I'm not really a picky eater outside of like nasty ass what's it called? Nasty ass I don't even remember the name of it. I hate it so much. Spinach. Ugh. Ugh. Spinach and kale. Ugh. Ugh. I can't even think about that crap, bro. Oh, it's so gross. All right. So gross. They make banging spinach. I don't know who you're talking about. Crawfish is fire. Spinach, yeah, nasty spinach. All right. I always wanted to try a crawfish boil. It's tough to do. It's tough to do personally if you've never done it. My recommendation would be to get to somebody down south who knows what they're doing. All right. That you gotta know what you gotta know what you're doing there. Keith, you eat spinach every day? Oh, dude. That's foul. That is foul. I like collard greens. Collard greens I'll eat. Especially when they're fresh picked from the garden. I'll eat that, man. I'll eat that. You can make a nice protein shake with some spinach. I don't do spinach. I'm sorry, guys. I don't do spinach. I don't even buy the whole health thing where it's like, it's the most healthy food. I'm like, nah, I don't think so. That doesn't look like something humans need to thrive. Okay. It just doesn't to me. But hey, Keith says your body will thank you, Zay. I don't know, man. I don't know. Zay, you're missing out on the green smoothies. Not my favorite, man. It's not my favorite. SMD, why am I not surprised that you check in with an I love spinach comment? All right. Why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised at all? Swiss chard, I'll eat Swiss chard. I'll eat Swiss chard for sure. Good thing you're not a dietitian. Jason, I eat pretty healthy, bro. I do like mostly no sugars, no processed foods, no crappy oils in any of my food. Homemade, whole foods. That's what I try and stick to. Look, I don't like spinach. I can't be a dietitian. Yo, A-Team, why don't you stick over there to whatever you grilling up your leather, all right? And I'll stay on my side. All right, A-Team, take a breather, big guy. Wow, Texas Tea, that's dope. I judged the competition last week. last week, and I spent most of the time choking on horrible crawfish. Definitely takes a little skill at 100%. Texas tea. That's why we would go around to the different, I guess they were like the frat houses or wherever they had the crawfish bowls at Bandman. We would rank them all. We'd grade them all. Not everyone is good, man. It's not just like you boil up some crawfish and they taste good. It's not like that. I do like the video. There's one video. Who did the video on Jalen Hurts, who loves crawfish? Somebody, I think it was like somebody did like a YouTube video on Jalen Hurts doing a crawfish boil. I don't know who it was. Like maybe it might have been like GQ or something, or maybe it was Men's Health with the food stuff. All right. I love my greens. Spinach is good. I don't see how you can hate it. It's just not for me, Izzy. I just don't like it. All right. When I was a kid, my mom used to make salad, and she would cut up spinach real small and put it in the salad to try and get it by me. And instantly I would know. I'd be like, Mom, you can't fool me with this. All right. Get this shit out of my salad. All right. Brussels sprouts. I like Brussels sprouts. All right. I like Brussels sprouts. I think it was Men's Health, maybe. Salami is not disgusting. I like salami. I eat a salami sandwich daily. It's about as healthy as I get. Devin, that's not very healthy, my friend. Especially if you're getting cold cuts from the store. Yeah. That's not the most healthy. All right. You got to be able to get a little more healthy than a salami sandwich, brother. All right. You got to. Rome checks in. He says, I drink Sua green juice. Great for you. I don't know what that is. There's one green drink I like. There's a little place in Cape May that I go, and there's a green. I don't know what's in it, though. All right. I don't know what's in it. Spinach might be in there, honestly. But it's got like citruses in it, so I can drink it. You know, you get some green juices and it's like spinach and kale and Brussels sprouts. And I'm like, that's nasty. I'm not drinking that. You must have had the microwave. Yeah, that'll spoil the fun, Dirty Air, if you don't have somebody, cooking up the Brussels sprouts the right way. All right. You guys have exposed yourself, man. You guys have exposed. Some of you have completely and utterly exposed yourself in this chat. Brian Fleming says, what up, Brian Fleming? How you doing, brother? How is this spinach 365? We're from the home of the cheesesteak. I could go for a cheesesteak. That's not very healthy for you. All right. We will never be spinach 365. Ever. Spinach 365 is yuck. All right. I'm out on that. Wait, so what's everybody grilling for Memorial Day? Is anybody grilling up anything for Memorial Day? Is anybody grilling anything up for Memorial Day? All right, we'll get out of here soon because it's Memorial Day weekend. But I do want to ask. We've talked about enough football this week. All right. 10 hours. I think you guys are good, right? I'm sure we'll have one comment. Is it just an Eagles show? Yes, it is. We just talked about the Eagles for 2 hours. All right. And we had, by the way, JAKIB was great today. I like JAKIB on Birds 365. Let's see what we got. Where's Prince? Is Prince in here? There he is. Look at Prince. Prince runs laps around you fools. Prince runs laps around you fools, especially you, Pumper. A5 Wagyu. Prince walked into the store, the butcher, wherever he went, dropped his nuts on the desk. Said, give me that A5 Wagyu, ribs and some jerk chicken. Now, Prince. All right. Prince. Sounds like you're cooking up good. Well done, brother. Well done, Prince. Smash burgers and stuffed burgers, maybe some ribs and sides, depending on who's eating and how picky my kids are that day. There you go, Cody K. Make them eat everything. Be like my mom. Cut up the spinach in their salad. Although if your kids are smart like I was, they'll bust you for it. I'm grilling Zander for his horrific takes. Pumper, the only thing you're grilling is yourself because your takes are worse than anybody's I've ever seen. You've yet to have a good take on the show, Brian. Now, you've had funny takes, but that's different. All right, that's different. Ooh, caramelized Brussels sprouts with bacon. Wings and steaks you're cooking up. There you go, Flex. I wonder how many wieners in here eat ranch. Yo, Dirty Air, you won't catch me doing that. You won't catch me doing that. All right. I got Xander and J-Mac on a barbecue. No, you don't, Pumper. Michael says, have a great holiday, Xander. Michael, you too, my friend. I appreciate that very much. All right. A nice 3-day weekend. All right. My kid got 4 ounces of A5 Wagyu at Gordon Ramsay Steakhouse at Harris, $160. Yeah, expensive. Yeah, it's no joke there, man. Prince is what his name says he is, all right? He's ordering that A5 this week. Flexing. That's a very flexed comment. All right. Anyone eating white creamy shit with their wings is suspect. That is hilarious. Wait, do you like who likes blue cheese? Who likes blue cheese? This is a controversial one too. Who likes blue cheese? Who likes blue cheese? Flexen says no white creamy shit. I figured when you said that you wouldn't like blue cheese. Blue cheese good. Yes. Dirty Air. Thank you very much. Eduardo F. Blue cheese. I like some, but not all blue cheese. I'm actually kind of a blue cheese honk. Like, I'll eat a block of blue cheese, which is a lot different than blue cheese you pour in a bowl to dip with your wings. I love blue cheese. I'm sorry. I do. I love blue cheese, man. Blue cheese on wings is so good. It's so good. How you could ever eat a wing with ranch on it over blue cheese is mind-boggling to me. Mind-numbing. All right. Now, I like blue cheese, man. Blue cheese is good, bro. Flex, I'm sorry. Blue cheese is good, bro. Blue cheese is good. I like spice. Me too, Izzy B. I love spicy wings. Ranch is all around pretty nasty, Prince. All around pretty nasty. Ryan says, Zan, you ever been in one of those Brazilian steakhouses? Yeah, like a Fogo de Chao or something. I remember I went there, man. I probably had the funniest picture ever, Fogo de Chao. Oh, and I do. It's still on my phone. Look at me in high school at Fogo de Chao with my ex honey. That's hilarious. I shouldn't even show this. Fogo de Chao. There we are. They're good. They're okay. Not my favorite, but they're all right. I think they're a little bit overrated, to be honest with you. Hot honey is fire. I love hot honey. Oh, nice, Dirty. Yeah, I used to live across. I know exactly where you are. Capitol Grill. Capitol Grill is dope. Capitol Grill is the is Capitol Grill the one that has the $100 cheesesteak? I had this rich ass friend in high school, and he was the cheesesteak honk, and he went to a Capitol Grill and got the $100 cheesesteak after high school. After high school graduation. She's gonna sue, Xander. Sue me for what? Probably still loves me. Come on, man. Prince, I'm with you, man. I'm with you, Prince. Capitol's nice. Tomahawks are good. No, that's Barkley Prime. Thank you, Fleming. I knew Capitol Grill might not have been it. That's it. You're right. It's Barkley Prime. Dirty Air. Dirty Air. Sounds like you got some good stories, man. Sounds like you got some good stories. Z about to be in the dog. Keith, I'm never in the doghouse, man. Keith, when you can shake and bake like me, you're never in the doghouse. All right? You're never in the doghouse. Brian Pumper says, y'all eating dirty steaks. Stop cat. Pumper, you're in like Kuwait. Dude, you're like stationed right now somewhere like I don't even know where, working on oil rigs in the middle of the ocean. All right? Like what are you talking about? I'm eating dirty steaks. What are you talking about, Pumper? You got to worry about what you're eating on Monday for Memorial Day. All right? Dirty steaks. Come on, man. Dirty steaks. I'm near Asia. Relax. I love it. I love it, Pump. But don't lie to me, Pumper. You ain't eating good this weekend, Pump. What's a dirty steak? That's a good question, Ryan, because I really don't know. Once you eat good steak, you can't eat the other stuff. Trust me. I'm there, Prince. When I was a little younger, I lived in Houston, Texas for a couple of years. Me and my brother lived there. We were stone broke, Prince. I'm talking stone broke. Stone broke. I had just left college. I had started my first business. I started making I want to say $1,500 a month, maybe. My rent was like $1,000. My brother and I were splitting a car payment. Obviously splitting gas, splitting food. I was probably $500 over what I made a month. So I racked up a little bit more of credit card debt each month, which was, yes, a very bad way to live, obviously. But I was an entrepreneur trying to figure it out, trying to make it. And my brother's birthday, I'll never forget. We went to one of the fat steakhouses in Houston. We ran up a bill, man. It was like $500. And it was my brother's birthday. So I'm like, I'm not letting you pay. So my broke ass pulled out my credit card with not a plug nickel in my account. Not a plug nickel in my account, man. Boom. I can run it up for my brother. But hey, man, it was all worth it. It was a great memory. I still got pictures from that night, I think. Let me see if I can find them. Let me see if I can find the picture of me and my brother eating good. All right, in Houston. That was a fun time. Living with my brother in Houston, that was a cool time for sure. Yeah, Vic and Anthony's, it was called. There it is, Vic and Anthony's Steakhouse. We went there. And we went to one other place. I forget the name of the other place. I was too broke to frequent it. I was too broke to be a frequent visitor, Prince. Again, I didn't have a plug nickel. All right. I didn't have a plug nickel. The grind, baby. Keith, you know it, man. You know it, man. Where in Houston? I lived dirty air. I lived right next to Minute Maid Park. Right next to Minute Maid Park for 2 years. So smack dab in the middle of Center City, basically. Which their Center City, if you've ever been to Houston dirty area, it's a lot different than Philly Center City. Way different. The city of Houston is so different from Philly, it's crazy. But I lived right next to Minute Maid Park. Lofts at the ballpark, I think my apartment was called. Yep, me and my brother split rent. It was $2,100. So my split was $1,050. And my brother at the time was a PhD student at Rice. So he was making a stipend he was being paid to get his PhD, basically. He got a scholarship. I told you, my brother's been very smart his whole life. But he was making I don't know, $22,000 a year, $24,000 a year. So, yep, right off Route 15. Correct, Zeal. Right where I was at. So we were, man, that was a fun time. Being broke, when you're a man, being broke, a couple of years of your life, good learning, good lessons in there, man. But yeah, that's where we live. That city is so different than Philly. It's crazy. Crazy how different it is than Philly. I'm more of a Philly guy. Oh, I wanted to try this thing. What's this see this little thing so I can show the comments on the stage now? Oh, it's so small. It's tiny down there. You see it in the corner? Everyone needs to be broke at some point. Yeah, dirty air. I've been broke longer than I'd like to admit. But it's all good, man. Money don't make the man. All right. All right, everybody. I appreciate you all being here, man. I appreciate it. Great week of shows this week on Birds 365. I was out of town for a little bit, out of town for a week here. I got a little caught up down there with my brother having his beautiful baby. I'm going to see him tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that, man. Gonna hold the baby Kennedy in my hands. I can't wait to see her. But the pictures I've been getting this week are fun, man. Are fun of just watching, my brother experience life as a father is cool. I will say that. It's a very cool thing. I've always been excited to have kids myself. And when my older sister had kids, it was cool. But when your brother has kids, it's a different feeling. It's a different thing, So talking to him this week has been really cool. But I'm looking forward to going and seeing the beautiful baby this weekend. Mo Mommy, hope you have a great week. I know you're down the shore, aren't you, Mo Mommy? I think I saw you say that. So I think I'll be heading down maybe on Sunday. I'm not sure. I'm hanging out with my brother this weekend. So whatever he wants to do, I'll do. Thank you, Philly Don, for the $2 super chat, brother. He says, have a safe and awesome holiday weekend, everybody. Thank you, Philly Don. Hope you're doing well, brother. Hope King James is all right. Hope your wife is doing good. Hope your whole family's all right, brother. So appreciate you being here, man. Appreciate you being here. Shady says, all the food talk is inspiring. I'm preparing my garden listening. There you go, man. There you go. Congrats on the new member of the JAKIB family. It's a big deal, man. All right, big deal. Mo Mommy's down there. Awesome. I hope everybody has a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. All right. It always feels like the weather on Memorial Day weekend never quite gives us what we want, right? Mo Mommy, you're near Summers Point, bro. I was right near you. I told you, Did I tell you this, Mo Mommy? My girlfriend lives right down there. She's down on the island in Ocean City. Yeah, on the back bay. Oh, right over right near what's it called? 34th Street, I guess it would be. That bridge. Yeah, so it's cool down there. I'll tell you what, Mo Mommy. Now, I don't mean to take a shot, all right? I don't want to take a shot at you, Mo Mommy, which is by the way, it's a tough name. Can we change that name maybe? All right. Let me tell you something. It's no Cape May, unfortunately. Cape May, man, I step into Cape May, I'm like, woo! There's just something different, all right? Maybe it's just me from going there my whole life, but I love it there. All right. It's Mommy. My kid made. All right, then don't change it. If your kid made that name for you, then I can respect it. All right, I can respect that a lot more. I appreciate all you guys, man, for being here this week. It's been a great week of shows. We'll have a big week next week. We start on Tuesday, so we'll have a short week next week. No Monday show. We'll have a Tuesday edition of Birds 365. Go through the week next week. The one thing I did do last night when I got back to the studio is I packaged up all the things. I know I was behind on the giveaways. So I'm sending those out. We'll do some giveaways next week. So we'll do that next week, a shorter week next week, but we will do some stuff. I know I promised some giveaways. I got to get back to it. You can hold me accountable for that, but I was way behind. So now that I was back, I got everything packaged up. So I'll send all those out. And then we'll do some giveaways next week. I appreciate everybody, man. It's been a great week. Prince says he's hitting the beach on Sunday, jet ski boats on the sandbar. That's a good time. Prince down there in Florida, that's a good time, man. That's a good time. So be safe, brother. Have fun. Rich, have fun. My mommy, have fun. Have a good weekend, brother. Stay safe. Flexing and stepping. Appreciate you, brother. Jason A-Team, thank you, brother, for all the support you give the channel. Don't be grilling up any leather, all right? And no spinach, A-Team. Spinach is overrated. It's overrated. And I think is it a farce? Is it even healthy for you? Looks like I should feed it to a rabbit. Is it even healthy? I don't think so. Flexing, you're flexing. You're eating so much spinach and kale, you're going to turn into a cupcake, dude. You're going to turn into a fruitcake. All right? Come on, man. Spinach is there's SMD. SMD, you haven't commented in 22 minutes. I bring spinach back up and you're back in the chat. Come on, man. All right, I love all you guys, man. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here, for supporting, for liking, for sharing, for commenting, for subscribing, for being members. I appreciate all of you guys. So see you next time, everybody. Have a great long weekend with your family. Hug somebody in your family this weekend. Tell them you love them. Tell them you appreciate them. Tell them you care about them. And thank them for being in your life. All right, God bless all of you guys. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you on Tuesday. But if you're a Sills watcher, I'll see you later on this afternoon. Appreciate all you guys. See you next time, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365. the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.